Hey guys, happy Sunday to you. I hope all is well. Hope you're settling into this course and really kind of understanding what's going on week by week. If you need some help, as always, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, do a Zoom call, walk you through whatever you're struggling with. So that brings me to this week. Is your first DB due? It's DB number 2. Your first one really doesn't count as a DB. You get the points for it for the introduction, but you're just introducing yourself. So here's your first one where you really have to follow the guidelines to get all the points. So I want you to please hear me on this. Read the instructions carefully. I've taken a lot of time to lay them out clearly so that you know what to do. And if you don't know what to do, that's not an excuse, because you could reach out to me. I just got off a Zoom call with a student. So I'm here. All you have to do is Zoom me if you don't know. But if you wait till the last minute, I'm not guaranteeing I can help you in that moment, right? So please don't wait till the last minute to say, hey, I need help. I'm struggling. We have a writing center. We have other help with Keontae Grantham. There's lots of tutors. I'm happy to help. You just have to communicate with me. But you're expected to do this work in this format, in the APA format, which means Times New Roman 12-point font, double spaced, with your 2 required resources due on Thursday, 200 to 250 words, followed by Saturday, 2 peer responses with 100 to 150 words with 1 resource. Your textbook should be one of your resources. Therefore, if you use your textbook, then on your original post due Wednesday, you only need 1 other resource. If you use your textbook on both of your replies, you don't need any other resources. There it is. You must cite them in your work and at the end of your work. And again, if you don't know how to do that, look at the APA video. You should have gone over that and the examples. I'm still happy to go over that with you and try to simplify that the best I can for you. But anything less of the word count, look, we don't want 700 words. We don't want 150 words. 200 to 250. And the idea, as I stated in the other video, is that you want to be concise with your wording. Because in counseling, if you take the 700 word approach versus the 250 word approach, you have a potential of losing that client somewhere in there. So you have to be mindful of that. Be concise in your statements, in your writing, and your thoughts, right? So please hear me on this. I'm going to spend a few more minutes on this. Like, literally follow these instructions. The grading rubric is in the syllabus. You should have gone over your syllabus. You should have seen the grading rubric in there that tells you exactly how you're going to be graded on that to the letter. So be mindful of that. That said, it's one of my favorite topics, the biopsychosocial model of addiction. I'm also going to put a presentation in here that I've done for a CE. You obviously won't get the CE. It's past, but if you want to watch it, it's about 45 minutes long. And write me a paragraph on your thoughts of it. What's important? What do you buy into? What stood out to you in there? What didn't? I'll give you 10 bonus points on any assignment. But it's not required by any means. So, but this topic is wonderful because I buy into this topic. I think it's a valuable learning tool. I think it's a valuable model. Bio meaning the biology, right? Our genetics. That plays a big role. While there's no proven addiction gene, there is much research that supports that. We know that if it's anywhere in our lineage, that there's a 50% more likelihood of becoming addicted. It doesn't guarantee addiction by any means, but it certainly puts us at what we like to call a predisposition for becoming addicted to substances, alcohol, other substances. Then there's the cycle of the biopsychosocial. That is the psychology, right? If we all process things differently and have a different view of the world and how we process that, how can there be one exact treatment if we're all so very different in our thoughts, right? And then there's the social part, the socio-environmental, meaning everything else in the world, from the neighborhood we grew up in, our family of origin, to the laws on the books, to society today, to our spiritual aspect. Now there's some people that call it a biopsychosocial spiritual, and they do a spiritual piece. I just include that in the socio-environmental, meaning the everything else piece. Um, it's very interesting, this model. It helps really explain a lot that's really not explainable, honestly. So what it does for me is explain why the need to really individualize care. Um, I think that's probably the one of the most important pieces of the puzzle, is not to throw everybody in a box. When I worked at a treatment center for many years, worked at one for about 9 years, and watching the nurses get super salty at a client for what they call drug seeking. I mean, right? What do you expect them to do? This is they've been using drugs for so long. This is their behavior. It's to be expected, not to be punished, not to be looked down on, right? It's to be expected. And so those kinds of things, you can't just throw people in a box. And what I mean again is too, what you'll learn from this course, is my hope, is that you'll learn that AA is not the only way of recovery or sobriety or a life change. And our landscape in the state of Texas in particular, but really all over the country, is AA 12 steps. That's how you do it, right? Now, I have a lot of thoughts on this, and you'll hear them throughout, because next week is your first paper, which is an AA or NA paper. I think the 12-step model is wonderful. I'll say that. It saved my life 14 years ago. So I have a lot of love for that program, but it's not perfect. And as a professional clinician, I don't really have an opinion, meaning I want to know what you think as my client, what's best for you. It's not about what worked for me. And many in 12-step recovery are going to argue this and say, well, it worked for me, and so it's got to work. Well, no, it doesn't. Again, the biopsychosocial model, the reason I put that here, I know is because it's a good tie-in to before you do the 12-step model, right? Meaning it should explain why there's not one model that works for everyone. While AA is a wonderful program, it's got faults, just like every other program. I want you to hear me on this. Every program is good. SMART, AA, NA, CA, AAA, MBA, all of them, kidding about the MBA, right, or AAA, but they're all good programs. They're just not always a good fit for everyone. But what happens is people get labeled resistant, unwilling, a host of other things, right? And that's just not fair. Are there people that are resistant or unwilling? Sure. But how do you expect them not to be resistant? I don't want to go to AA. I never wanted to go to AA. There's a saying that they're the largest group of people that no one ever wanted to be a part of. So was I a little resistant? Sure. But isn't that to be expected? So it shouldn't be such a negative thing. Your language matters, right? The language you use matters. So I'm going to encourage you, starting now, moving forward, to start to shift your thinking from, if you're already in a program, from recovering member to professional clinician. And if you're not, to I'm going to start trying to hopefully steer you in this direction, to start thinking as a professional clinician of what's best for you as my client, right? My language matters. AA, hi, I'm Dan, I'm an alcoholic. I don't like that. I'm never going to label my clients. Hear me on that. Now, I don't have an issue with a self-help group such as AA. AA is not clinical treatment. Hear me here. AA, SMART, they're all Celebrate, Refuge. They're self-help groups. Are they of great value? Absolutely. I'm never going to go into an AA meeting and say, well, you can't do that. I know you've done it for 90 years, but I'm a clinician and that doesn't work. Never going to happen. If a client comes into my office and says, hey, I'm an alcoholic, I'm never going to correct them on that and say, oh, no, don't use that term. I'm not, if that's how they identify, that's fine. For me, you'll never hear it from the clinician. Think of this. If you walk into my office, confused, scared, unsure, and I start labeling you with alcoholic and addict, you're probably not coming back, right? Because they have such a negative, they have such a negative connotation. I think they served their purpose. They're very antiquated, though. We know better today. There's still a lot of professionals in our industry that use this language regularly, and it's okay. Labels are necessary. Hear me on this. While I don't use them, at least not with you, they're very necessary from professional to professional. If I'm talking to a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a doctor of some kind or another clinician, and I say they have an ADUD, an alcohol use disorder, they know what that comes with. I don't need to tell them their whole life story. They know, right? So there's a need when communicating professionally for that. Plus, insurance has to have their piece, and they have to have something to treat. If they're going to pay for treatment, they have to have something to treat. Therefore, the diagnosis. When I'm talking to you, you either drink or you don't, or you use drugs or you don't. In my eyes, either they cause problems or they don't, right? And so that's where I kind of stand on that. You'll never hear me label a client, and I hope you take that with you. And the language I use matters, just like the term relapse. Now, I've had conversations with students, so I needed to be told I was an alcoholic. Wonderful. That's great if that's your story. That's not all of your clients, though. And you're not here to push your story onto them. You're here to say, I hear you. How is that beneficial for you? Let's talk about the potential benefits and the potential pitfalls and find out what you feel might work best for you. My job as a clinician is not to choose for somebody. My job is to walk with them through their choices. And I think that's very important, and language matters. So just keep that in mind. But again, let me back up to this week's biopsychosocial model. I love this model. I think it helps make sense of a lot of things that I struggle to make sense of. And start thinking about next week is your AA or NA paper. Again, you can go to AA, NA, CA, Al-Anon or ACA, Adult Children of Alcohol. You can go to any of those, and you can go online or in person, but don't wait to the last minute, guys, or you'll find yourself in trouble. We'll talk more about that paper next week, but this week you need to follow your instructions. Original post is due Thursday night. 200 to 250 words. Anything less than 200, according to your rubric, you're going to lose points. 200 to 250 words, double spaced, 12-point font times New Roman font. Followed by using 2 scholarly resources. One is your textbook. Followed by 2 peer responses. Same 12-point times New Roman double-spaced font, 100 to 150 words. 1 scholarly resource, use your textbook, will be due Saturday. Then if you want to re-engage in the discussion post that you read something that you wanted to get back to on Sunday, feel free to do that. That's why it's set up that way. Guys, I hope you have a great week. Get to a meeting soon because you don't want to wait till the last minute. And then, we'll talk soon. If there's anything I can do to help you, I'm here.